What if the chaos we're seeing in the world right now isn't actually chaos at all? Think about that for a second. We look at the news, we see the shifts in the Middle East, the economic tremors, the feeling that the social fabric of the West is tearing, and it feels like the clock is just running out. But what if it's not running out? What if it's ticking toward a specific, preordained moment that was woven into the very fabric of reality before the first sunrise? Most people look at the year 2026 and see just another date on a calendar, a secular milestone. But what if 2026 may point toward a mathematical inevitability etched into the Hebrew Bible 3,000 years ago? The ancient Hebrew letter for the hook is the key to understanding the global shifts we are witnessing right now. If you've been feeling that the world is under a divine decree, you're about to find out why. My name is Pastor Najam, and I welcome you to Understanding the Word. Let's take a deep breath and walk through this together. Before we calculate the year 2026, we have to understand why the letters matter. In Western thought, letters are just symbols for sound. They are arbitrary. But in the Hebraic mind, letters are structural. They are the scaffolding of thought and the building blocks of existence. When God spoke the world into existence in Genesis, He didn't just use ideas, He used words. And words are made of letter. The ancient Jewish sages often said that the letters of the Aleph-Bet are the atoms of the spiritual world. Each stroke, each curve, and each point carries a specific weight in the architecture of the universe. To look at the Hebrew text is to look at a blueprint of cosmic proportion. The Masoretic tradition was preserved by ancient scribes who treated every stroke of a pen as a matter of life and death. These men were more than copyists. They were the guardians of a divine frequency. If they made one error in a Torah scroll, even in a single tiny letter, the entire scroll was buried. Why such precision? Because they understood something we've largely forgotten. The word is structural. They counted every verse, every word, and every single letter. In fact, some ancient traditions identify the middle letter of the entire Torah in the vicinity of Leviticus chapter 11, verse 42. Whether as a physical count or a symbolic marker, this reflects not hidden codes but revealed order. God is a God of precision, and He leaves nothing to chance. In Hebrew, there are no separate symbols for number. Aleph is 1, Bet is 2. Every word carries a numerical weight, a Gematria. This is not some mystical invention. It is the natural consequence of a language where letters and numbers are one and the same. Gematria illuminates patterns. It does not generate doctrine. It's like a backlight on a painting. It shows you the brushstrokes you might have missed. It doesn't change the picture. It just proves who the painter is. When we see the same numbers appearing across centuries and across different biblical authors, we are seeing the signature of the architect. We are seeing a cohesive, intelligent design that transcends time and space. We are currently in the Hebrew century of the 5700s. Specifically, we are in the decade of the 80s, represented by the letter Pe. The letter Pe literally means mouth. In its ancient pictograph, it looks like an open mouth. Think about what has defined this decade so far: the war over narrative, censorship, the decree of governments, the power of social media, the breath of the spirit versus the breath of man. We are living in the decade of the mouth, where words are being used to either build or destroy, to either set free or to imprison. The mouth is the gateway through which the soul expresses its alignment, and right now, the global conversation is being forced into a narrow corridor of choice. But as we enter the Hebrew year 5786, the year that transitions us into 2026, something changes. The letter Vav is added to the Pe. To understand the Vav, we must walk into the tabernacle of Moses, the Mishkan. In Exodus 26, the Bible describes the Vavim, the silver hooks. These hooks were the only things holding the massive curtains of the sanctuary together. Without the Vav, the tabernacle was just isolated pieces of cloth and skin. With the Vav, it became one unified dwelling place for God. The Vav is the anchor that turns separate parts into a functioning whole. Vav is the connector. It is the letter of and. Heaven and earth, mercy and truth, spirit and matter. It is a vertical line, a bridge that joins the celestial with the terrestrial. If the 80s are about the mouth, the decree, then 2026 is the year of the connecting of the decree. It is the year where the things spoken in the spirit begin to find their physical hook in our reality. It is a moment of divine synchronization. It's as if the things God has been whispering in the secret place are finally finding their anchor in the physical world. It's not later. It's not someday. It's anchoring now. I want to be very clear here. This is not a prophecy of an end date. It is a season of divine alignment. Now stay with me, because this is the exact point where most researchers get it wrong. They see the numbers, but they miss the covenant. It's easy to calculate Gematria, but it's difficult to discern a divine pattern. Let's look at the word Hakma, wisdom. Het is 8, Kaf is 20, Mem is 40, Heh is 5. Total value 70. This is not a random sum. In the structural design of the Bible, wisdom is the foundation upon which the world was built. Wisdom is the skill of living in harmony with God's order. In biblical history, wisdom doesn't appear when things are easy. Wisdom appears when systems are collapsing. Think of Joseph in Egypt. He had the wisdom to interpret the dream when the economy of the world was about to fail. Think of Daniel in Babylon. He had the wisdom to see the writing on the wall when an empire was falling in a single night. Think of Solomon, who asked for wisdom not for his own gain, but to discern justice during a time of national transition. These men were given a frequency that others could not hear. They could see the Vav, connecting the divine warning to the earthly action. They knew that a year of transition requires a mind that is hooked to the eternal, not the temporal. These are thematic and typological echo, not claims of direct, literal fulfillment. But as we look at 5786 and the year 2026, the Gematria suggests we are entering a wisdom window. The patterns of the Middle East today echo, in structure rather than prediction, the ancient prophecies of Ezekiel and Zechariah. God is hooking the hearts of the remnant back to the Torah. He is connecting our current history to his ancient promises. Wisdom is the ability to see the architect's plan while the scaffolding is still up. It is the discernment to know that when the world says, fear, the architect says, align. It is the courage to stand at the hook point of history and remain unmoved by the shaking. Consider the nature of time itself. We often think of it as a river flowing in one direction, but in the Hebraic view, time is a cycle of appointments. The Hebrew word for these appointments is moed, an appointed time or a divine dress rehearsal. If 2026 is an intersection on the divine calendar, we must ask ourselves, what is being rehearsed? Are we practicing for a moment of collapse, or are we practicing for a moment of connection? The Vav is a vertical letter. It reaches up to receive from the heaven and reaches down to plant it in the earth. This is the posture we are called to adopt as we approach this significant threshold. So why does God show us these patterns? Is it for curiosity? No. In the Bible, revelation is always tied to responsibility. If the divine clock is indeed striking a significant hour in 5786, the goal isn't for us to build a bunker. The goal is for us to build our lives on the truth, Emet. In Deuteronomy 30, God sets before the people life and death, blessing and cursing. He tells them to choose life. This is the role of the prophet, not to be a fortune teller, but to be a covenant prosecutor, calling us back to our first love and our original design. To choose life is to choose the connection that the Vav provide. The Hebrew Aleph-Bet teaches us that truth, Emet, begins with Aleph, the first letter, centers on Mem, the middle letter, and ends with Tav, the last letter. It covers the whole span of time, from the first breath to the final breath. It is a word that stands on two legs for every letter, signifying its stability. Falsehood, in contrast, often has no legs to stand on. As the world experiences this Vav connection in 2026, as the geopolitical shifts in the Middle East mirror the patterns of the ancient prophets, do not be afraid. If you know the architect, you aren't surprised by the construction noise. You understand that the breaking down is often the first stage of the building up. Discernment without obedience is not wisdom, it's just information. And the world is drowning in information while starving for truth. We have more data than any generation in history, yet we have less peace. This is because data cannot hook the soul to the Creator. Only the covenant can do that. What we need is a return to the foundational principles that do not change when the wind blows. If you see the sign but you don't change your direction, the sign has failed you. The patterns are not there to be studied. They are there to be followed as markers on a path toward home. Think about the hooks in the tabernacle one more time. They were silver. In the Bible, silver often represents redemption or the price of a soul. The connection that holds the dwelling place of God together is a redeemed connection. As we approach the year 5786, we are being asked if our lives are redeemed from the chaos around us. Are we part of the curtain that hangs loose and tattered, Or are we part of the curtain that is hooked securely to the silver of God's redemptive plan? This is the weight of the moment we are entering. As we enter the Hebrew year 5786, do you feel a sense of divine connection or a divine shaking in your own spiritual walk? Verify the Gematria for yourself. Study 1 Chronicles 12:32 about the sons of Issachar, who understood the times and knew what Israel ought to do. They were not merely watchers of the stars, they were understanders of the time. They knew that knowledge of the season dictates the strategy, but most important, talk to the one who wrote the letters. He isn't just the God of history, He is the God of your history. He is the one who numbers the hairs on your head and the days of your life. 2026 is a milestone, but the journey has always been about Him. It is about the Aleph and the Tav. He is the beginning and the end, and everything in between is held together by His hand. Is your life aligned with the blueprint? Does your frequency match the divine decree? Think about that. Take a moment to reflect on the hooks that are being placed in your own life right now. Are you being connected to the eternal, or are you drifting with the temporary? The world will continue to speak of crisis and catastrophe. The mouth of the decade will continue to roar. But those who understand the Vav will know that every crisis is an opportunity for connection. Every shaking is an opportunity to find what is unshakable. The year 5786 is calling us to a deeper maturity, a place where our words and our actions are hooked together by the Spirit of truth. I'm Pastor Najam. Walk in wisdom, walk in peace. And remember, the architect is still on the throne and his word is the final authority. The patterns are clear, the invitation is open, and the connection is yours to make. The clock is not running out. It is reaching its connection point. Be ready. Be hooked to the truth. Be at peace in the presence of the King.